you come across the word hawkish, it means it's positive for that economy, that the speech was positive. Whenever you hear the word dovish, it's negative. Hawkish is derived from the animal hawk, and hawk are always found where? In the skies, while doves are always found where? On the ground. So maybe, and whenever we are having speeches made by central bank heads of every nation, that news for that period is always ever extremely important. So traders take now. This is what I tell every trader. Trading this news is always dicey. Why do I use the word dicey? Unless you have analyzed the speech made by central bank heads, I'll advise you to just wait to know where the market is going to. Even as a trader myself, I tell people, and even when I studied economics as a course, we are never, unless, and true, even if you study economics as a course, even if you are a trader, unless you are into monetary, you are working with central bank in a division of monetary policy decision, you may not understand anything they say. But we have some analysts who will give you what? A review of their speech and tell you, okay, the speech made by so central bank governor is dovish or what? Hawkish. That is what I always wait out for. To analyze the summary. In summary, the statement was what? Hawkish. Or in summary, the statement was what? And once you have that, you always see the effect on the market. If it is hawkish, that currency is going to buy. Now, take note, one thing I like Europe is, this is the only currency. Are we seeing this currency? On any currency pair, euro is the only currency that is a base currency. You see Euro British Pound, Euro JPY, Euro USD, Euro AUD. Euro is the only currency that is base currency. But someone like British Pound, dollar, some currencies, they are either base or what? While this man, JPY, on all currency pair is quotes. You never see it as what? Base. So Euro is base all through. JPY is what? Quote. While others are base or what? So whenever you have news coming out for Euro, it's easy to trade Euro. Unlike dollar or British pound. Dollar, some places you do so, some places you do buy. So that 12:45 news, I say I wait for outcome. Now, remember, before I even move forward, let's go back to the Forex Factory page. Now, there are some days you don't have only news like that. You have news in this format. Are you seeing this format? Now, if you look here, where you have speech, whenever you have speech, you will not see anything here. Because it's a speech. Speech does not have numbers. Now, press conference is going to be held by the European Central Bank. Who is the head of the Central Bank in Europe? What's her name? So these are the things you need to know. That's why I said it's important. ECB president is a lady, and she was once the IMF president. Her name is Christine Lagarde. She's a French woman. Now, this same today, Bank of Canada's governor is having a speech. So, for those who are trading Canadian dollar, be careful. Those trading euro, be also what? This is what happened. This is what I tell traders. Before I even open my MT4 to trade, I must look at what? News. And me, once I have news like this, Bank of Canada, European Central Bank, Bank of Japan, Bank of England, all of these banks are having important news made by their central bank. That day, I will not even touch any currency pair related to them. Yes. But the day they want to show you pepper, especially because their news is volatile. Let me give you a picture of how volatile a market can be when a news comes out. Let me turn back to my hourly charts. Back to my hourly charts. Now, An example of a volatile news is that you will see candles form like this. I see this candle. The body is very small, but the tail up and down is very what? Long. You will see like 6 or 8 of these. These are examples of when market is volatile. Volatility happens when you have a struggle between who? Buyers and sellers. So, and whenever we are having news from central banks of those economies, this is exactly what happened. Let me go to Euro currency. Let me pick Euro USD. Let me pick Euro USD charts. Now, on currencies that have news from their central bank, you may not see strong market movement, but traders are waiting for that time to take advantage of whatever speech he has to say. Because her speech will border on every country now. Everybody's looking at every economy now. Coronavirus has come to stay. What are your plans to do what? To manage and grow the economy? Because very many economies were hit, yes or no? Yes. And the plan is, excuse me, create the move for the news and take advantage of it. So that's why you notice, that's why I have a rule. Whenever it's news about central banks, that day, I just wait till that time for the news. Follow the direction. If the news is hawkish, you will see serious long what? Buy candles from 12:45, 1 o'clock and above. But if the news is dovish, you will see what? Sell candles forming immediately. But at times, there may be mixed interpretation. And hence, you will now have something looking like this. Now, let me interpret what this candle means. It means when this candle opened here, it came down as low as here, and it finally went up as high as here, before it finally closed like what? A sell. Let me look for that other candle I was showing us to explain it even better. Okay, let me look at this candle up here, for example. Now, are we seeing this buy candle here? Let me explain to you. This buy candle came to as low as this. So it means the buy was very what? Then it shot up and it came up like this. It means it went up as high as this. Sorry, it went up as high as this as a buy. Now, here it was selling. This candle showed that it had a sell candle here before it finally closed like a buy. It usually happens. So, these always are actions of volatility. And whenever we are having news, you usually see some things like this. Like the last European Central Bank speech, I was confused and I didn't bother placing a trade. I usually wait for market to react if it's a buy or a sell and I enter. But that day, I was seeing candle running down like a sell. The next thing, it ran back up like a buy. Now it will come back again. And if it is an hour candle, it will do that for the next 1 hour. When it finished ending up as a buy, the next candle repeated this action. I just decided not to place any trade. And I'll wait, because this is one thing about news. If market reacts to news, it will now what? Correct itself back. So I just waited for what? Market correction, and I could. That's news for you. So that's why I said in trading the news, you have to be dynamic. You can't be rigid in your approach in trading. You have to be dynamic. Now, I'm going to paint you several scenarios of how news affects the market. Another scenario you need to take note of is this. Let's go back to Forex Factory. On Forex Factory, why do I like using Forex Factory? Because of these colors. We have actual, we have what? Forecast, and we have what? Previous. Now, this is the news every trader waits out for. For what? The actual release is what traders wait to trade. Now, actual in red means negative for that currency in question. Actual in green means what? Positive. But if you have an actual that is same as forecast, okay, not now remember, if actual is the same as forecast and the same as previous, it usually has to do with what? Monetary policy. Like, look, this main financing rate is known as overnight rate or interest rate. This main financing rate is the rate at which commercial banks lend from central banks. In Europe, their financing rate is 0. It means central banks don't charge commercial banks any interest on the loan. Are we getting the picture? So these figures hardly changes. Let's look at the previous figures. It has always been at 0, 0, 0 for as long as I've known. Can see it? Can see it? 0, 0, it has always been what? So they hardly change rates figures. But this is what I tell traders. The day the rate change to either positive or negative, that day I will focus on dollar currency that day and be making my money. If they mistakenly increase this rate to green, Europe will be buying. If they mistakenly change this one to red, Europe will be selling. But not only Europe, other currency, but it hardly what changes. And before they change the interest rate, they will have, you can see there's a statement. They will tell you why they are doing that changes. And if the effect that it will have on the economy in question. But when I'm trading news that requires actual forecast and previous, if actual is the same as forecast, even if this news is a high impact news, don't bother trading it because it will not move. I repeat, if you are trading a news where actual forecast and previous are the same, that does not mean that news will not move. But it is only when you have actual and forecast as the same. Expect that that news will have no effect on that currency. But when you have actual as what? Red is negative. When you have actual as green is what? So that's it. Now I repeat, do not think this news where you have actual forecast and previous the same will not have an effect. And you only see this kind of figure when you have what? Main financing what? Rate. Main financing rate is the news you have such things. But when you have a news that will give you statistics and it actually the same as previous, as forecast, sorry, don't expect this news to move the market at all. But when you have an actual that is in red color, is negative. Now take note. This news has passed, so you cannot trade them. And remember, they are under what? Low impact. The next high impact news is by 12:45, and that one may start or may not start moving the market. The main one that will move the market is when they have the press conference. And the press conference is for what time? 1:30. Now that is when they'll start asking the central bank governor some questions. Why did you maintain your interest rate? You gave us inflation report as XYZ. That they'll ask her, why has she not increased interest rate based on that inflation report? Those are the questions they will throw at her. And at the same time, they'll ask her, what are their plans for European economy? Are they bringing stimulus package? Stimulus package is to create, pushing money into some industries that were booming to regrow the economy. That's why whenever I'm sure most of us have heard stimulus package. Yes or no? Yes. Stimulus package is central bank sitting down and looking at what sector was bringing them money and to what? Pushing more money for them to generate the economy once again. Because coronavirus brought everything to what? Standstill. So those are the questions we'll be asking them during the press conference. Now, as I repeat, even economists and even professors, it's difficult for them to understand if they have not been following statements by the central bank heads for years. Okay? Now, we also have people who are called them institutional traders. That's their job, interpreting the news. And once they interpret it, they give their fellow traders, this is what this news means, this is what we should do. It's negative, it's positive. So for news that has to do with speech by central bank governors, I usually tell traders, I wait to see what? Market reaction. If the market reaction is confusing, I stay off. If it has a one direction, either it's buying or selling, I flow. Now, in trading the news, we don't have rules for step loss and take profit. But over time, we've seen that when you say take profit, do you know what that needs to do to you? Hit you out as stop loss and do what? And follow in your favor. I have never placed a trade on any news or put stop loss that favored me. So that's what I did. Do you know what I did? And I thought I was the only one having that issue. I spoke to my fellow traders. They said they don't put stop loss for news.